Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Preet Bharara, and I'm the United States Attorney for the Southern District of New York. Today, we unseal a criminal complaint against the Majority Leader of the New York State Senate, Dean Skelos, and his son, Adam Skelos, charging them with public corruption offenses. The allegations are laid out in a detailed 43-page criminal complaint. I urge you all to read it. The complaint draws upon evidence gathered from documents, search warrants, 2 cooperating witnesses, numerous additional witness interviews, and court-authorized wiretaps. Let me emphasize at the outset that these are only charges. The complaint contains allegations only, and both defendants are absolutely presumed innocent unless and until those allegations are proven beyond a reasonable doubt, which is what we intend to do. In summary, the complaint charges in 6 counts that Dean Skelos unlawfully used his power and influence as Senate Majority Leader repeatedly to illegally enrich his son, Adam, and indirectly himself. As alleged, father and son entered into a scheme to monetize Dean Skelos' official position by extorting money from others for Adam Skelos with the expectation that such payments would influence the official actions of Dean Skelos. Now, the essential allegations that we intend to prove are these. When Dean Skelos became Majority Leader of the New York State Senate in 2011, he repeatedly pressured one of the largest real estate developers in New York to direct money to his son, Adam Skelos, who was a commissioned salesman for title insurance companies. Dean Skelos was allegedly making those repeated and persistent demands for money at the very same time that the real estate developer was lobbying Senator Skelos with respect to critical legislation. As laid out in the complaint, a senior executive with the real estate developer has acknowledged his role in the charged scheme and has agreed to cooperate and testify in this matter pursuant to a non-prosecution agreement. Specifically, this executive, referred to in the complaint as Cooperating Witness 1, or CW1, acknowledges that the developer made payments to Adam Skelos and also secured for him a job for an environmental company whose business Adam himself admitted he knew nothing about in order to influence real estate legislation regularly before Senator Skelos, and in his belief that the senator would punish the developer if his son were not taken care of. Specifically, on multiple occasions, as outlined in the complaint, Senator Skelos allegedly met with CW1 about official legislative matters, and at those same meetings, requested commissions for Adam Skelos, his son. And so the developer allegedly directed money to Adam Skelos in 2 ways, both designed to conceal the developer's role in arranging those payments. First, the complaint alleges that the developer paid $20,000 to Adam Skelos outright, but made it appear as if this payment was a commission earned for title insurance brokerage work. But as alleged, Adam Skelos performed no work for that $20,000. Its source was deliberately hidden, and the only reason it was paid was due to repeated demands by Senator Skelos, as alleged. Second, the complaint charges that the real estate developer arranged for Adam Skelos to be hired by a company that was trying to sell an environmental product to Nassau County, essentially a filtering sponge designed to purify stormwater. Adam Skelos, as described in the complaint, literally knew nothing about this business, but was hired and paid at least $200,000 over time because of the consistent pressure from Adam and Dean Skelos. Once Adam was hired, the environmental company was allegedly pressured to more than double the monthly payments to Adam Skelos, from $4,000 to $10,000, through a threat that Dean Skelos and his son would block the company's chances of winning a valuable contract with Nassau County unless the payments were increased. A witness from the environmental technology company, referred to in the complaint as Cooperating Witness 2, or CW2, has stated that the company paid Adam Skelos with the expectation that his father, Senator Skelos, would use his official position to help the company. Now, the complaint also sets out in detail the official actions that Dean Skelos is accused of taking in return for these payments to his son and to ensure that they would continue. For example, The complaint charges that Dean Skelos allegedly sponsored, voted upon, helped to enact tax abatement and other real estate legislation beneficial to the developer. Dean Skelos allegedly used the power and influence of his position to help the environmental company that hired his son obtain a $12 million contract with Nassau County. After the lucrative contract was awarded, Dean Skelos allegedly also pressured Nassau County officials to fund the contract and to expedite payments to the environmental company. Dean Skelos allegedly advocated for increasing funding for stormwater projects in the New York State budget, along with other legislation beneficial to the environmental company that had hired his son, although those efforts understandably stalled as the defendants became increasingly concerned about law enforcement scrutiny. Now, what I've described for you is laid out in this chart. As I said, Dean Skelos, as alleged in the complaint, essentially used two companies to send payments to his son, Adam Skelos, one, the real estate developer with which there is a cooperating witness, and second, the environmental technology company, also a cooperating witness there. And as I mentioned, those payments were caused to be made by the real estate developer through the environmental technology company to the tune of $10,000 a month, and separate and apart from that, a $20,000 payment from developer one that was disguised, as we allege in the complaint. And of course, as I also mentioned and is laid out in some detail in the complaint, a series of official actions taken in return for that money, including enactment of real estate tax breaks, pressuring county officials, and the seeking of legislative benefits for both companies. Now, as I mentioned before I went to the chart, the complaint also charges that in recent months, the defendants grew concerned about law enforcement scrutiny, including from this office, and took steps to conceal their conduct. Adam Skelos, for example, allegedly obtained what he himself referred to as an anonymous burner phone, ostensibly not registered in his name, in which he believed law enforcement would not be intercepting. Adam also expressed frustration to his father that it was becoming too dangerous and difficult to talk on the telephone like they used to. Dean Skelos, for his part, allegedly cautioned his son to cancel meetings with other state senators set up to promote legislation favorable to the environmental company, explaining to Adam that the meetings had to be canceled because, quote, right now we are in dangerous times, close quote. Nevertheless, notwithstanding these concerns, the complaint alleges that the defendants did not entirely abandon their corrupt scheme. Dean Skelos is alleged to have continued to work behind the scenes on promoting the environmental company's interests in state budget negotiations. As described throughout the complaint, Senator Skelos and Adam Skelos worked as a team to illegally monetize the senator's power and influence to take care of Adam's financial needs. At one point, for example, Adam Skelos allegedly sought and obtained from his father's office records of the majority leader's top donors so that Adam could attempt to make money from his father's political contributors. And the complaint in multiple places alleges that Dean Skelos' support for certain infrastructure projects and legislation was often based not on what was good for his constituents or good for New York, but rather on what was good for his son's bank accounts. By now, two things should be abundantly clear. First, public corruption is a deep-seated problem in New York State. It is a problem in both chambers. It is a problem on both sides of the aisle. And second, we are deadly serious about tackling that problem. Well, I'm joined here today by our partners in the case, and the reason that we're able to bring this case is because of the fine work by the career prosecutors and investigators and agents who have worked so hard over the past year. Namely, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, represented here by Diego Rodriguez, the Assistant Director in charge here. I also want to thank all of those at the FBI who have helped make today's case possible, including FBI Special Agents Paul Takla, Jennifer Kibler, Russell Lanus, as well as Supervisory Special Agent James Barnacle. I want to recognize, of course, the people to my right, the dedicated career prosecutors and investigators who make the case, who do the actual work. They are Assistant U.S. Attorneys Jason Massimore, Rahul Mukhi, Tatiana Martins, and Tom McKay, supervised by Arlo Devlin Brown, the Chief of the Office's Public Corruption Unit, and criminal investigators John Barry and Bob Ryan. I also want to thank and acknowledge the leadership of the office that was involved in this case: Deputy U.S. Attorney Richard Zabel, Criminal Division Chief June Kim, and Chief Counsel Dan Stein. And so now let me turn the podium over to Assistant Director in Charge, Diego Rodriguez.
Thank you, Preet. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Diego Rodriguez. I'm the Assistant Director in Charge at the FBI New York Field Office. The charges announced today resulted from the investigation of an ongoing scheme allegedly orchestrated by Senator Majority Leader Dean Skelos and his son, Adam. The FBI's investigation uncovered criminal activity that began at least as far back as 2010, when the defendants are alleged to have conspired to take advantage of Skelos' powerful position within state government to influence and extort those with business before the state. As alleged, after promising to secure legislation in favor of a major real estate developer who was lobbying Skelos at the time, Skelos pressured the developer to arrange for his son, Adam, to be paid a commission for work he didn't perform. The developer was further influenced, allegedly, to arrange for monthly payments to Adam Skelos through an environmental technology company seeking government-funded contracts in New York State. In exchange, Dean Skelos allegedly promised to take official actions that would benefit the developer and the environmental technology company. Such actions are alleged to include, but were not limited to, promoting real estate legislation favorable to the developer, blocking legislation that would negatively affect the developer, and seeking changes to the budget in order to secure state funds for projects benefiting the environmental technology company. At the same time, Adam Skelos, an unregistered lobbyist, allegedly positioned his father and other officials to support laws from which he and others would profit. When all was said and done, Dean Skelos is charged with having caused more than $200,000 to be paid to Adam Skelos in exchange for backdoor bribes. The quality of our local infrastructure, government services, and social benefit programs is directly affected by public corruption, one of the FBI's top criminal priorities. We hold our elected representatives to the highest standards and will continue to root out corruption in all its forms and at all levels of government, municipal, state, and federal. Many thanks, as always, to our partners in this and in so many investigations: U.S. Attorney Preet Bharara, Chief of Public Corruption Unit Arlo Devlin Brown, and Assistant U.S. Attorneys Jason Massamore, Raul Muki, Tatiana Martins, and Thomas McKay. I would also like to thank and congratulate the investigative team that worked together to address corruption in New York. I extend my sincere congratulations to John Barry and Robert Ryan, criminal investigators from the Southern District, FBI Special Agents Paul Tackler, Jennifer Kibler, and Shannon Fish, and Supervisory Special Agent James Barnacle for their work on this important investigation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Diego. I'm happy to take your questions about this case.
If you could talk a little bit more about the design build component of the complaint as it relates to the state budget, and how brazen you think what must have been happening, given the fact that this budget was negotiated not a month ago, presumably Skelos knew he was a target. Also, if you could draw the parallel with the case against Silver and how you consistently said that the process in which public money gets doled out is problematic.
Yeah, I'm not going to draw any comparison or parallel. I think the case speaks for itself, and all the cases speak for themselves through our charging documents. So with respect to what you ask about design build, there's a paragraph in the complaint that I can't quote verbatim, but I just direct you to that. Yeah.
This is not, I don't think, part of the charge, but if you could clarify, on page 10 you talk about how since 1994, Dean Skelos received $2.6 million in payments from his law firm that actually did no work, which shows off the similar to what Michelle Silver was accused of doing. But is that illegal, or is this just...
Yeah, let me make clear that with respect to that paragraph in the complaint, there is no allegation against the firm or with respect to that. That's factual background for the purposes of explaining the charges here. Yeah.
Sir, the point of a burner phone is usually that law enforcement doesn't know about it. How did your investigators find out that Adam Skelos was using the phone?
I have great investigators, and I'm not going to reveal that to you. Yeah.
The deferred prosecution that you provided for one of the developers, it's really not as overlay the work has been in some of these cases. Just curious the explanation given to the deferred prosecution. You're so connected to a number of cases.
Yeah, it's a good question. You know, we make decisions about how to address conduct by individuals we come across in our investigations. And we take into account a lot of things, including their level of culpability, including the need for deterrence, including personal circumstances, including the type and quality of testimony that they may provide. And in rare circumstances, and there's one here, we agree to a non-prosecution agreement. I'm not going to go into the particular deliberations that went into the decision here with respect to the person you're talking about. But as I've said before, and I've said here at this podium, those are serious issues that we deliberate on. And sometimes when the overall interests of justice counsel in favor of giving a non-prosecution agreement to an individual, we'll do that. And we did that here. Yeah.
On May 28, 2013, the complaint talks about calls that were made to the Nassau County Executive Office regarding the bid by UCC. Is there any indication that this corruption scheme is going to implicate any officials in Nassau County?
I'm not going to talk about who else is being looked at or beyond what's in the complaint. You can speculate, but I'm not going to do that. Yeah.
You previously, on a corruption indictment, said to advise us to stay tuned. Are you telling us the same today? We expect more indictments involving corruption?
I think implicit at the end of any comment I might make from this podium is you should stay tuned. You should stay tuned to our cyber cases. You should stay tuned for our terrorism cases. You should also stay tuned for our public corruption cases. There were public corruption cases pending in the office when I arrived. There will be public corruption cases, fortunately or unfortunately, pending when I leave. So you should stay tuned because there's... Yeah, I'm not going to comment on what specific kinds of things are going on, but we have a public corruption unit which we're not intending to disband. Yeah.
Can you tell us if you're pursuing charges against any of the real estate developer individuals?
Yeah, I'm not going to talk about other charges we may be pursuing. If you have a question about the charges that we have pursued, as evidenced in today's complaint, happy to talk about that. Yeah.
Is there a reason, like in the Silver case as well, you're revealing the charges before you're bringing the indictment? I know in the past, the indictment and the complaint kind of come together. There's a reason they're being separated?
If you look at all the cases that we bring in this office, many, and I think it's 1,000 or more a year, hundreds are brought by complaint, hundreds are brought by indictment initially. It depends on the circumstance. It depends on the state of the investigation. It depends on what we think is important to be known. So I wouldn't read anything into that. The next one might be brought by, and in fact, there have been public corruption cases that have been brought by indictment initially and others by complaint, and I wouldn't read anything into that at all. Someone who hasn't, yeah. I have some information about that. I can't remember what's in the complaint and what's not, so I would just direct you to the complaint on that. Sorry. Yeah.
You have basically an unprecedented situation. The leaders of both houses in Albany facing corruption charges. I'm wondering if you can comment just generally about Albany, what it says about the state politics.
Yeah. I've said a lot about what it says about the state of corruption and the problem, so I don't think I need to elaborate on that here, and I think the complaint speaks for itself. Patty.
Normally you put out a press release. I'm just wondering if that has anything to do with the fact that a federal judge sort of chastised the office for saying...
We put out a press release.
You did?
Yeah. You should arrive early, Patty.
I don't think there's...
It's in the back.
Following up on that, how has Judge Caproni's concern about the publicity surrounding the Silver case affected how you've unveiled this?
You were asking me at a press conference to talk about a judge's opinion that talked about a press conference? Nice try. Next. Yeah.
The developer involved in this case also had a nonprofit that made large contributions to the Senate Republicans and to other political officials to help them get elected. I wonder if you're looking into any of those contributions to find out whether they were improper in any way.
I'll answer that question in the same way I've answered every other question, seeking to find out what other people we might be investigating or looking at, only to say that you should assume we're looking at everything that's worthy of looking at. Yeah.
You said before that, in other criminal cases that, your job from the criminal cases was that sometimes the cases show broader policy issues that should be addressed elsewhere. I was curious, when you look at the charges that you brought here, are there legislative fixes or anything that could have been done
I don't think this is the time and place to talk about what reforms might have made sense. I think that, it's good when people look at reforms and other people whose job it is to figure out how you might have prevented a bad thing from happening, whether you're talking about it in the cyber context or the terrorism context or the gang context or the gun context, or the same is true in this. I don't think it's any different from anything else. If there are other people who can read the complaint and figure out ways that we can make things better and prevent crime from happening in the future or deterring it, we applaud those efforts. That's all I'll say on that.
Surprised by the things you found in this case?
I've been doing this for 6 years. It's really hard to surprise me at this point. Thanks, everybody.